Why is it that obesity is developing in countries that suffer from undernutrition? This seems paradoxical, but it's actually not. If you look at it closely, there's a perfectly good explanation as to why non-communicable diseases, or NCDs, are increasing relentlessly in low and middle income countries. I'm Lara Dugas, AXA Chair in Non-Communicable Disease Epidemiology from Loyola University Chicago and hosted at the University of Cape Town. In this second part of my masterclass, I'll tell you which factors are responsible for the escalation of NCDs in low-income countries. You'll see that the same drivers apply globally. So, there are three main drivers. The first one is the nutrition transition. Let's be clear. It is not physical inactivity alone. In the early 2000s, there was this widely spread theory that obesity was a disease of physical inactivity. Unfortunately, doing more exercise did not solve the problem. People are actually self-reporting more physical activity than ever. But the worldwide obesity prevalence continues to increase. For example, in places where people are already active, like our research site in Ghana, we saw that the prevalence of people living with obesity jumped by over 125% in just under 10 years. So it's clear that the NCD pandemic is not driven by our lifestyle alone. The most important driver of this raging epidemic is in fact what we call the nutrition transition. What does it mean? Well, it means that as countries become more urbanized, there is an increased availability of highly tasty, easy to store and prepare energy-dense foods. These often packaged foods are rapidly replacing more traditional foodstuffs. It's no secret, however, that ultra-processed foods are high in calories as well as salt, sugar, and unhealthy fats, and often are not actually nutrient-rich, unlike the diets they are replacing. Importantly, these poor diets impact novel risk factors like the gut microbiome. We have found in our studies that the more fiber in your diet, the healthier and more diverse your gut microbiome, and the less likely you are to have obesity and type 2 diabetes. It's not just food though. Another major driver of the obesity epidemic in both the US and now in rapidly transitioning countries is the availability of sugar-sweetened beverages. Sugar-sweetened beverages are probably the main source of added sugar to our diets. Did you know that 1 can of soda delivers about 12 teaspoons of sugar? A recent study found that the consumption of sugar-sweetened beverages was actually highest among low and middle-income countries like Mexico. Indeed, this country has the highest per capita consumption at 9 servings per week, almost an extra 1,500 calories. Remember that the average recommended calorie intake for an adult is 2,000 calories a day. Mexico has the highest per capita consumption, but it is followed by other countries in both West and Southern Africa, like Nigeria and South Africa. The second driver is climate change. We've all heard about how the climate is changing and how it's disrupting climate patterns, causing more droughts, floods, extreme weather events. But have you thought about how a heating planet can actually change your health? One way in which it does is through the way you sleep. When you feel hot at night, you know you struggle to sleep. Now imagine, this happens night after night, and you have no ability to cool your room, like most people living in sub-Saharan Africa, South America, and parts of Asia. Not only will you feel tired the next day, but we know that there is a direct link between poor sleep quality and having more NCDs. Why? In short, when you are sleep deprived, the autonomic nervous system is not able to do its job of relaxing you. This is very bad for your health and can lead to NCDs like cardiovascular disease. So, climate disturbances disrupt sleep, but on a much larger scale, they also wreak havoc on food production and food systems. This forces people to rely on non-traditional and ultra-processed foods that often have a long shelf life, as opposed to fresh fruits and vegetables. I'd be remiss if I didn't mention that climate change also increases greenhouse gases and air pollution, which are also major drivers of NCDs like asthma and chronic lung diseases. The third driver is healthcare access. In high-income countries or places where you have great access to healthcare, if you have a constant headache, you can go and see your doctor to make sure you don't have hypertension. However, in many under-resourced environments, the primary healthcare focus is on maternal and child health, or managing infectious diseases. As we get better and better at treating these infectious diseases, we get people to live longer. The problem is that inequities in healthcare access and resources, which include being able to screen, diagnose and manage or treat NCDs, result in late diagnosis and management, if any, and worse disease outcomes in these settings. This has a huge impact on the mortality rates that can be attributed to NCDs in these circumstances. In a nutshell, there are three main drivers to the obesity and NCD epidemic. And note that these drivers are not unique to rapidly transitioning countries. They also apply globally in any under-resourced environment. And it goes without saying that the poorest countries are the most impacted by climate change, even though they contribute the least. So, the first driver is the nutrition transition. In other words, diets are shifting from nutrient-rich to high in ultra-processed food and sugar-sweetened beverages. The second driver is climate change. The heating planet, coupled together with extreme weather events, is not only putting an enormous stress on our food production and food systems, but at a micro level, also directly impacting our health through risk factors like sleep disruption. And finally, healthcare access. Under-resourced environments are already stretched because they are facing a high infectious disease burden and don't have the capacity to now treat NCDs. This is resulting in a significant increase in mortality rates all over the world. Taken together, it's clear that it is a complex problem that will need a multi-pronged solution focused on the individual, the community, and society. Let's move on to the third part of my masterclass to find out how we can act at each level.